great honor to be invited to be a speaker here today, and I've made a few modifications to my slides to make them a little bit less commercial. I'm not here to only speak about Stevanato, but talk about industry trends as a whole. I was great to hear Fran and hear Christian and others speak earlier about the challenges of bringing combination products to market. I've invited a few of my colleagues also from Stevanato Group who are experts in glass primary container to be in the audience today should we have additional questions about those topics. I focus on primary packaging and injection systems here, the integration approach. And basically, in a nutshell, what we're talking about is taking certain levels of expertise and trying to bring them under one house. You know, some people use the term one-stop shop. I don't think that necessarily is the approach that we're going to take or advocate. I think what we're trying to say is that to be involved in the combination product space and be very active with the pharma companies who are becoming increasingly demanding and expecting to have a lot of competencies, you need to have certain core activities within your organizations or within your partners. So I've divided my talk into a bit of an overview here, and I think it makes some sense. We've got industry trends, what I consider to be a wave of outsourcing, and I'll explain that, how we've developed a 360 approach and how others are doing it as well. Three key areas of support, which we're talking about: primary container, contract manufacturing, device solutions, and then I put key learnings at the end. So hopefully if I finish in time, we'll have the chance to address a few questions and I can give you a little bit more information. I like to talk my recent talks about, sorry.
Could you cut a little bit to the other side?
Perfect, sorry. I like to talk where I can about patients, because I think that when we look at these kind of products, we need to understand what the patients are going to be doing with them. And we see an increasing drive now for patients to be using these drug delivery devices, whether they're auto-injectors, pen injectors, or now we see a wave of wearables as well. And West and other companies have done very well in this area. But we see that these patients are also going to need more convenient treatments to avoid having to go to hospitals. From the Pharmapack and the biotech solutions, they're trying to find more companies that can provide, I said, complex or integrated solutions, and I see greater competition. So in the past, we had one dominant player in auto-injectors, one dominant player in pens, and one dominant player in wearables. And I think now we're seeing other companies that are coming in and providing more variety and other solutions that can be utilized. I talk about a wave of partnerships and outsourcing. And where I see, as companies are getting more and more active in the device space, some pharmaceutical companies are taking hold of the device space in itself. So we're seeing pharma companies that are developing their own drug delivery systems instead of relying on some other device companies. And this creates an opportunity for companies that provide contract manufacturing, as is our company, but also creates a challenge. So how much control should pharma companies take? Should they do the design, the development of the device, and then also do the manufacturing? These are questions that the pharma companies have to decide. I think it's a good thing that some of the companies are developing their own devices, and I see it as a strong trend. But I also believe that several of the device companies will remain very busy. I predicted, I think, almost 11 years ago that there would be a shortage of auto-injectors in the market. I don't know if I was necessarily right about a shortage, but I believe there's a big challenge right now to meet demand. And if I look at the real shortage, I believe it's in people. I don't believe we have enough people with the level of expertise and background in combination products that are needed to meet the demands of the market today. And several key people that I've known for many years, to be honest, are retiring. Some of those people are going to work in consulting, which is terrific, but other people are going to enjoy their retirement. So who's going to have that knowledge and expertise? If we meet today for the first time and we talk about a drug delivery system, if we're very lucky, within 1 year, we might sign an agreement. Within that year, we have a lot of discussions, a lot of back and forth with legal, and then we start a program. That program, no matter how advanced it is, it's going to take several years to get to clinical. and then several more years to get to market. So that means we could start a program through initial discussions today, and it would still be 5, 6, 7 years before you see this product on the market. Now, people are saying there's accelerated timelines. We can do things in 12 months, 14 months. It could be true in some cases, but in general, most people haven't had the opportunity to see the programs that they've started launched. And that's very telling. Integrated solutions is one of the topics that I wanted to mention today. And what I'm saying here is that ideally your partner is going to have a range of services. Christian and I were talking about the importance of primary container. And I've got to admit, there are a couple of experts from my company in the audience that know far more than I do. But I started working with AMPI, now Stevanato, many years ago when I was at SHL, because I found that there wasn't enough communication between the device companies and the primary container companies. And I have to say, unfortunately, that hasn't changed. It's improved slightly, but we still have a long way to go. So we have all of these different areas where we have to develop expertise, and the pharma companies often have to rely on consultants to keep everything managed together. Let's talk a little bit about primary container. So if you're working in an AutoInjector program today, you're basically looking at primarily a 1 ml and a 2.25. And as was said, I think, by Fran earlier, we see a stronger trend and a demand for the 2.25. Injection volumes continue to increase. We see right now that volumes are going up to 2 ml, and we also see studies that have shown tolerances for a 1.2 or even higher one-time injection of a drug. This doesn't take anything away from the need for wearables, but it shows you that the demand for autoinjectors will continue to grow. And if you're going to be working in an autoinjector program, you need to look, of course, at the syringes, the manufacturing, the assembly equipment, and even the labeling and the packaging. I'll talk later about the assembly equipment, and one of the things I'd like to caution you is it's about putting all of these together. So the primary container and autoinjector often have difficulties when you're doing the assembly process and making that smoother and more robust. In addition, you have to watch drop testing and shipping vibration testing, as many of you know. Flange is a hot topic. For many years, I was always saying, I wish we had small, round flange. I wish we had small, round flange. So several companies now who are supplying primary container are providing small, round flange. Unfortunately, several of the autoinjectors that have demanded it for many years have not customized their autoinjector to be suitable for small, round flange. They're having issues. So we have the dilemma. We have a stronger primary container with a small round flange, but several of the devices are built around platforms for cut flange. So for our company, we provide both solutions, but I continue to see this as a bit of an issue. Needle extension. When talking about needle extension, some people will say the length of the needle, but I often say needle extension. This is an area that we learned a long time ago we have to control very carefully because the autoinjector in itself is not a perfect device. So when you have a certain level of tolerance that needs to be met, you have to work very closely with your primary container expert to ensure that those tolerances can be repeatable. I would pay close attention to this because injection depth is becoming more and more of a hot topic. Glide force performance, we talked about this earlier as well. When we look at the new drugs and the formulations, you can say, now we've advanced our primary container systems. We have great companies that are here in the auditorium today, and they've improved siliconization and distribution and glide force. But that doesn't account for the fact that some drugs have a different kind of interaction on those primary containers. And we don't really know that until you put it up on stability or you do additional testing. So what we're saying here is get that primary container, fill it up soon, and put it up on stability and test it so that you can understand what's going to happen. Case study. We have no standard for a 20 ml cartridge right now, and we see that every company that's doing a wearable, no offense, has a different size for the 10 ml, the 15 ml, and the 20 ml. And with this, we find the challenge is how do we develop a level of consistency, and then working with stopper suppliers to develop a technology and solution that can provide it in a shorter period of time. One of the ways we've been able to address this is by working with companies like Sorel to have three-way CDAs to allow the integration of our primary container into their drug delivery device, and working with other partners such as West, who are in the audience today, Dotweiler, and so on. Communication has to be improved, and it has to be done at an earlier stage. Analytical services, as I mentioned, are going to be offered to provide solutions for the primary container. We have those services in our facility in Italy, and of course, we also have a new tech center that's opening up in Boston to provide additional support. One of our partners in the room with the designer of the Maverick AutoInjector is an example of what I'd like to say is a fully integrated solution approach. Companies are now asking for turnkey solutions. They'd like to be able to have the fill finish, device design, development, manufacturing, and assembly, packaging, and release under one roof. And we're very proud at Stevanato to say that working with DualJet and with our friends at Novacol Pharma in Cambridge, Ontario, very close to where I'm from, we're able to provide that solution for an emergency use device, which is codenamed Maverick. Now, why this is important to share with you is I believe it's a trend. I believe that people are looking for a more integrated approach, especially when it comes to emergency use devices, which have the 99.999% to consider. And now more than ever, we're also considering time to market. Tooling is a hot topic for a lot of people in contract manufacturing. You know, in my opinion, I've always preferred to have tooling in-house, but over the years, that opinion has changed. Our company, for example, we outsource tooling. We used to have a large tool shop ourselves, but many companies now are demanding better pricing for tooling, higher quality tooling, longer life of tools, and this is often quite a trend that we have to watch as well. Excellence in molding, I think, is no surprise here. This is a consistent approach of every contract manufacturer, but variety of contract manufacturing have to offer different types of molding and different types of equipment. Flexible subassembly and final assembly, I think, is really important as well. I've often seen challenges with scale-up, scalability. So customers will say, set up a line to be able to do about 1 million units in 1 year, and then suddenly they launch in 3 additional countries and they need to double that or triple that. So you have to think ahead with regards to not only the subassembly lines, but also the final assembly systems. Here, of course, standards such as clean room and so on are quite vital. An example of scalable equipment is with another partner that we've been working with for quite a while. Hasselmeyer and Stevanato have signed an agreement with regards to a pen injector, and we've had a relationship through that organization for a while through actually the equipment that we provided. So I prepared a very short video to show you a scalable solution with regards to the assembly of a pen injector, which is actually based on the Axis D and in the market today for Merck Serono. And I'm just going to show it, and then we'll just go through it a little bit. And we can turn down the music a little. Thanks. So this program here is based on a platform called XTV, and it's a scalable system. So basically, you could start with a smaller footprint and then expand as needed. Now, in the pen injector market, quite often you need to have higher volumes and a number of controls in place. But we believe that you not only can make a machine for one specific device, but you're in a position now to have what we call hybrid machines. Now, this machine is a dedicated machine for a specific pen. It's terrific. It can run this way. It meets those needs. But the trend that we see that I think is very interesting for at least pharma companies is to move away from having only one dedicated machine for one dedicated device, to have that ability to perhaps do 2 auto-injectors with one machine. And when you have differences in volumes and demands, that flexibility, I think, is quite helpful. And this video is available online. The last thing is just a quick mention. Last year, Paulo and I, who's sitting in the front row, we're honored to receive an award for innovation. And so I think the other trend that we're seeing from suppliers is this need to innovate, to bring new technologies. Now, the challenge we have is when we innovate new technologies and we try to share them with pharma, pharma says, is this on the market? And then the next question is this in clinical? And the next question is, could you let us know when it's going to be on the market or in clinical? So we have the dilemma to develop new technologies that could be innovative, such as our SG Pod, or to develop technologies that are based on other systems that are more standard or already accepted in the market. I believe you have to do a bit of both. I mean, for key learnings, you can look at the size later, but what I'm trying to say is if you integrate some of these technologies and approaches within one organization, you should be able to reduce time to market and enhance your total cost of ownership. It doesn't take away from the need to utilize experts in the field. I strongly believe in the use of certain consultancies, and I think that there are a lot of people in this audience today who know quite a bit about drug delivery devices. But I'd like to close here and just say thank you for giving me a few minutes to talk. Thank you.